So what we're going to do on this short video is introduce you to Pipe9, the sales development platform for superhero sellers and for superhero sales managers. And the way that we're going to do this is by introducing you to George Beck. I want you to meet George Beck. George Beck is a superhero sales manager, and George uses the Pipe9 development platform to develop his sales team, and he's developed his sales team into a team of top solution sellers. And the outcome of doing this is that George has tripled the likelihood his sellers become top performers, top solution sellers. And most importantly, he's improved performance by 20%. Now, what does that mean? We're not talking about top sellers. We're not talking about bottom sellers. We're talking about improving the performance of the median group of sellers in George's sales team by 20%. That's the impact that George has had on his performance by using the Pipe9 sales development platform. So let's drill into this in a little bit more detail. How did George do it? How did he do it? Well, the first thing he did was he created a hypothesis for excellence, for the work, for the role, for the job his sellers were doing. And he used this hypothesis of excellence that George referred to as an excellence profile to coach and manage his sales team. And it's by anchoring all the development work that he was doing around this excellence profile that he was able to make the double jump from being a product selling sales team to being a true solution selling sales team. So everything that he did from a coaching and development point of view was anchored to the profile. Now, what the Pipe9 app enabled George's team to do, his sellers to do, was to complete feedback, to take self-feedback, for George to complete manager feedback, for his sellers to reach out to peers and other contacts across the organization. And all of that feedback was aggregated. And importantly, that feedback was based upon the excellence profile. And what that enabled George's sellers to do was to get insights in where they are in their journeys towards mastering some of the important skills that they needed to have to be successful in the role that they did, based upon the profile of excellence. But equally important, it gave them a perspective on what new skills they need to develop, what next skills they needed to develop in order to grow, in order to develop and grow. And what George was able to do was then embed those new skills into personalized development plans using the Pipe9 app for each member of his sales team. Now, George's approach to developing people was skewed towards on-the-job development. Because what George wanted to do, he wanted a way to be able to connect his people with the right experts, people across the organization that had the skills, were expert in the skills that his sales team needed to develop. But not only that, he also wanted to have a way to connect his people to the right resources that could also have a big impact on developing their skills. All of this at the right time and in the right moment. So what the Pipe9 app enabled George to do is exactly this. It gave George the capability to connect his people to the right experts, to the right resources, and to the right, all at the right time and the right moment. Now, here's the sales development rub, because there's always a rub, isn't there? There's always an investment that you need to make in order to get back a return. And the investment that George's team needed to make, and George ensured they made, was that his team put the same level of discipline into tracking their development priorities using the Pipe9 platform as they did in managing their sales opportunities in their CRM system. So George ensured there was this level of discipline associated with just managing their development plans, creating and managing tasks, making sure they were tracking the progress that they were making over time. And then the final thing that George was able to do was to use the Pipe9 data platform, the people data platform, to really drive smarter sales, team development decisions, because all of the feedback data that was flowing through, all of the skilling and mastering of skills data that was flowing through, all of the tracking and progress data was flowing through. George was able to aggregate all of that up into insights that enabled him to make smarter people development decisions. So this is how George did it. This is how he improved the performance of that median group of his sales team by 20%.